No bullshit. I'm being 100% serious. This chapter of Fairy Tail, this chapter right here that I'm talking about, one of Hiro Mashima's best work. I'm being legit 100%. This is one of this is when Fairy Tail shines, and it always makes me think, man, if only this manga was more in this regard, if only it was doing things this way more often and being this creative and out of the box of what the norm happens in the series, this series would just be through the roof. Because I'm flat out, I'll tell you right now, I'm giving this chapter 10 out of 10. Great fucking amazing shit. It hit the feels. It made me just feel so many different things because Erza, your parents, fuck them. Your dad, a piece of shit. Irene, you fucking stupid ass nut job piece of shit. Like, oh, I'm getting into rant mode on these characters, but it's in a good manner. Don't worry, it's in a good manner. Hiro brought his fucking A game with his pen. So the opening of the chapter, we actually jump straight into finding out who's Erza's father, which he's not that important of a character. He's just some guy that was like, you know, a general, and he had a relationship with Irene based on a political marriage, and he seemed like he was an okay guy at first, but yeah, some people, they aren't what they appear to be, and this dude, this fucking nasty motherfucker, like, oh, you know when somebody did a good job on a chapter when I'm emotionally wanting to strangle one of the characters because of the way they've been just like, how do you do that? So Irene started to look more and more like a dragon because seemingly she was already turning into a dragon at the end of last chapter when it was revealed like what was going on when she was talking to Belsarian and shit like that. You could see that she was already starting to turn. It just became more apparent now in her face. And this scumbag was like, I don't have a kid with a fucking monster. Threw her in jail, humiliated her, had her butt naked on a cross, tortured her. Like, what? Is this Fairy Tail right now? What the fuck am I reading? Berserk? Like, I've seen some scumbag parents in anime and manga. I've seen them, bro. I've seen them. Gambino from Berserk. If you've seen Red Berserk, Gambino let Guts get fucking booty raped because he was a scumbag. Yuki from fucking Future Diary, his father, scumbag. But Erza had a scumbag dad and a scumbag mom. Now, granted, Irene, you can throw up the argument, say, hey, she got fucking batshit crazy. She was tortured hundreds of years in a dragon's body, basically like not knowing what to do, desperate to become human again. So she went nuts. She went nuts. It's a little bit of a difference than the father. The father was flat out like, yeah, I'm not with a monster. You're gonna be like Actologia. Like, he was a pussy that used his fucking scaredness to ultimately create his actions and follow through with what he did. So fuck Erza's father. Like, ugh. I mean, come on, bro. Like, really, like, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. He was prejudiced. I mean, the second he saw that, he got scared. So, yeah, bottom line, Erza's father's scumbag, and we'll talk more about Irene in a bit. One of the interesting things is, there's a reason why it's because she's Erza. I mean, you can argue whatever, like, oh, it's clearing BS or whatever, but there's a legitimate reason. If she kept Erza in her stomach for 3 years using magic, so already she was developing for 3 years inside of the body of somebody that was turning into a dragon. Then when she went full dragon mode, which the art when she was turning into the dragon, when she was going crazy, because again, we gotta talk one more time about Erza's father. I'm gonna cut that baby out, like, oh, I'm reading this chapter and it's pissing me off because this character's a son of a bitch. So yeah. When she was actually going crazy and apeshit and turned into the dragon, beautiful art right there, just amazing. But again, 3 years inside while she's developing with dragon DNA, so to speak, surrounding her, and then on top of that, hundreds of years after that, inside of Irene's body. Erza's hacks for a reason. She was inside of the body of a half human, half dragon. So essentially, Erza is probably even more of a dragon than the dragon slayers themselves, because she seemingly is a fucking half human, half dragon hybrid. Difference is, well, I'm kind of curious if she'll actually have the same fate as Irene, or the fact that she was born from somebody that was human, maybe she'll have the capabilities of turning it on and off, so she can go dragon and go back, similar to what I guess Acnologia could do, because remember, he bathed in the blood of a bunch of fucking dragons and he turned into it and he could go back and forth. So maybe she'll have that capability, because let's be honest, Hiro's not going to completely turn Erza into a dragon. He needs those tits to sell this manga. She can't go full dragon. It's just not going to happen. And also, this chapter explains something great. why would she follow somebody like Zeref? Like, what was the motive for her? I mean, you gotta think for a second. Put yourself in those shoes. For hundreds of years, you was miserable. You didn't want to be what you were. You were looking for an answer, and Zeref was her savior. When he said, yo, I'm gonna turn you into a human, you're gonna have a human's body. It's just a human's body, but you're still a dragon, but I'm gonna do that. Like, of course she's gonna pledge loyalty to somebody like that. He was basically her lord and savior at that point when she was at her lowest in life. So it makes sense. It explains very clearly the connection that Zeref and her has and why she follows him, which I wish more of the Spriggan would have get a little bit of a backstory as to why they pledged their loyalty completely to Zeref, because I mean, as of right now, maybe August might be able to top it potentially, but Irene is hands down the best of the Spriggan. This chapter, her backstory, her strength when she went up against Acnologia, it was insane. Which you gotta think, when they had that first encounter, I'm kind of curious if Hiro already had thought of this or he thought of it afterward, because again, it seemed as though they weren't really familiar with each other, but what I'm imagining is Acnologia wasn't familiar with her, because again, even when the war happened back in the day, as it was explained in this chapter, he was like, I won. Nobody knows what side won. It was just Acnologia laughing there on top of dead bodies saying, yeah, I won. So it was like his war. He's not gonna give a fuck about some random human there. So essentially, maybe she knew who Acnologia was, but of course he didn't know, and he didn't really give a fuck. And probably the reason why she sent him away again is maybe she really can't hang with Acnologia. After all these years, I'm sure she knows tons of magic, tons of spells, but to be able to keep up with Acnologia, maybe that's the reason why she couldn't do it, because he's that damn OP. And when she was going through that craze, I'm not gonna lie, when she was like, I can't taste the food, what's going on? I just want to be human. I ain't gonna lie, it reminded me of some Tokyo Ghoul shit, which that's not a big deal. Like, oh, don't compare Tokyo Ghoul to fairy tale. Like, relax, it's one element, sit down. When she was eating the food and she couldn't taste it, reminded me of like, what was it, episode 1 of the first chapter and shit like that, where Kaneki couldn't taste food because it tastes so nasty to him and shit like that. Kind of reminded me of that, except it drove her into a crazy psychosis and mentally ill. So Irene, you could give an argument that while she was a piece of shit when she started making that decision of I'm gonna take Erza's body, and even now she's a piece of shit, it's mainly due to the fact that she went bonkers. She loved her kid. She kept him in there just so that, oh, I don't want to give birth to my baby in jail. And then after that, she basically, kept on and on for hundreds of years because I want to give birth in a human's body, and then ultimately gave birth. So she did care for Erza. It's just she went crazy. So she's still a scumbag for what she's saying right there. Like, I'm glad I got rid of trash like you. That's inexcusable piece of shit. But I'd still give her a little bit more leeway than Erza's father. Fuck him. And I think it was leaving room for further plot when Erza asked the question, was it in Rosemary's Village that you left me? And she said, I don't even know, whatever village, you piece of trash. It was kind of leaving room for potentially maybe somebody else picked her up initially and then brought her to Rosemary's Village. So I think that was Hiro leaving a little bit of room so that we could get a little bit more backstory of what happened to Erza between the time Irene dumped her in the fucking, little village, and ultimately what happened with her later on and how she joined up with Jalal and stuff like that. I think that was Hiro leaving room for further plot for her backstory. But honestly, one of the most touching moments of the chapter, which is what solidified it as, again, one of Hiro's best works, at the very least in years. Like, he did a fantastic job with this chapter, was that last line where she was like, I'm grateful I was born. And Irene's like, don't be grateful about me giving birth to you, you trash. And she's like, and I'm grateful you got rid of me so I could eventually meet my real family. Like, yo, just saying that, I ain't gonna lie, that hits the feels. That was a really fucking dope one. Honestly, amazing chapter. 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. I don't care what anyone says. Loved it. Irene's backstory. I understand the madness. She's still a scumbag for the words she's saying even to this day, but I get it. I totally understand it. And it also leaves a lot of room for Erza, why she is what she is. The bitches have fucking dragon. What do you want? But I'm kind of curious what you guys think about this chapter. For starters, how did you feel about Irene's backstory? Who do you think is worse, Irene or Erza's father? Was he just completely inexcusable because he just didn't give a fuck? He even went to cut Erza out of Irene's stomach? Or was it Irene because she, even to this day, is still saying you're trash? I mean, I think it's just that Irene is already far gone. She's way past the point of reason because she went nuts. I will excuse that. And what do you think about Erza? Do you feel as though the fact that she was for over hundreds of years inside of this woman's body developing, that's why she's so strong? That's why she's so OP, because she has part dragon in her and never knew it? I mean, again, I don't even see Hiro really utilizing the dragon stuff with Erza much, because because that's not her style. She doesn't strike with punches, she uses swords and shit like that. So I think that's just gonna be an extra layer, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of like dragon armor that she's gonna equip at some given point, like maybe some interesting magic she'll come up with or whatever. But yeah, your thoughts on, could this very well be the reason why we get lines like, it's because she's Erza, because the bitch is half dragon? And your overall thoughts on this chapter? Do you feel as though it's some of Hero's best work, some of Fairy Tail's best stuff? I mean, this is when Fairy Tail is at its finest. This is when I'm excited to sit in this chair and talk about the series, because it's like, I can praise it, it's legitimately amazing, and yeah, I definitely feel as though this is some stuff that Fairy Tail should do more often. Your overall thoughts of all this? But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And Erza, I hate to break it to you, but yeah, your two biological parents, they suck.